to happen.
I agree with you. The border is a disaster. I feel like the border is a bipartisan issue, though, because the border has been terrible under multiple administrations.
Well, we had the lowest border crossings when Donald Trump was in the White House that we've ever had.
So today, Lara Trump went on the Breakfast Club, and props to her for doing so. But as we so often find is the case with Charlamagne, it's just like talking to a complete brick wall, because Charlamagne is a guy who sometimes will have unique thoughts or be kind of open-minded, but no matter what, you can always count on, in the end, he is going to revert back to the talking points. And that is exactly what we saw here time and time again, although Charlamagne does have a couple moments of seemingly political epiphany, like, oh, maybe that's a good point, but wait a minute, Democrat talking point, gotta go back to that. Regardless, we'll talk about it and react to it in today's breaking news video. So folks, do us a big favor. If you enjoy the content, be sure to hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And why should you subscribe? Because doing so goes a long way in ensuring we can keep bringing you videos like this. It's totally free. All you gotta do is hit that red button. And with that said, let's start off here just with a prime example of exactly what I am talking about.
Especially towards women. They absolutely take away rights from women. What do you think about that?
How's that?
What do you mean?
Which rights?
The Roe v. Wade being overturned, women's reproductive rights.
You got wars, you got an open border, you got people with less money in their pocket, can't make ends meet. So what do? You say, all right, we got to go hard on abortion. What happened when the Supreme Court said, we're going to get rid of Roe v. Wade, is that the most democratic of things happened, which is that this went back to the states so that we, the people, actually have the opportunity in our respective states to vote on it. Donald Trump has said he will not sign a federal abortion ban. This should be out of the hands of the federal government. And actually, it's a great thing so that here in New York, there might be a vote that is very different than what they might have in Alabama or California or.
But that's the thing, is again, regardless, they don't really listen, especially people like Charlamagne. It always just comes back to the same thing. But abortion is an issue. Realistically, okay, I'm pro-life, but let's be honest about where this stands right now, at least for the next presidential term. It's not moving, most likely, okay? Especially on the front of a national abortion ban. I would argue even the codification of Roe v. Wade would be unlikely under a Kamala presidency. I mean, she could abolish the filibuster, but would she even have the support to do that? Who knows? But again, this is what we saw time and time again, which is that Charlamagne reverts back to the generic talking points in the end. And that was especially true when they discussed the issue of immigration. Take a listen.
How do you ask Mexicans and Muslims to ignore a lot of the rhetoric, Haitians to ignore a lot of the rhetoric that he said about them that is dangerous, that has villainized them, that has demonized them?
Well, I would say anyone who's coming to this country illegally, he's very against, and every American should be very against. If you're an American citizen, Donald Trump doesn't care your religion. He doesn't care what you look like. He will work for you, and he wants to make this country safe for you. We should all want a secure southern border. And I, as American citizens, should be the ones absolutely infuriated that this has been allowed to happen.
I agree with you. The border is a disaster. I feel like the border is...
See exactly what I'm talking about? So Charlamagne says, I agree. Not just that, oh, we have a problem. He says the border is a disaster. Okay, and this is an issue he's actually been kind of critical of Biden and Harris on, is why have you fumbled the immigration issue so badly? But here comes along a guy named Donald Trump who is serious about it. It's like the key issue for him. Frankly, despite how bad our border has been for the past 4 years, if it weren't for Trump and the way he really steered the Republican Party and the national political conversation, you wouldn't even really be talking that much about immigration. It'd be maybe like the 5th most important issue in this election. Despite all of that, it's like, okay, you agree that the border is a disaster, but what was your opening question there? But his rhetoric is demonizing Hispanics and Haitians and all this stuff. It's like, okay. See, this is exactly why we cannot actually get to a solution on the border or on immigration as a whole. Because the moment that someone comes along to address it, what happens? Remember Trump in 2016, or basically this entire time? He wants to solve illegal immigration and create a sensible legal immigration system. Racist, xenophobic. But by the way, the border's an issue. That makes absolutely no sense. But let's keep listening here.
It's a bipartisan issue, though, because the border has been terrible under multiple administrations.
Well, we had the lowest border crossings when Donald Trump was in the White House that we've ever had.
Yes, but I still feel like it's going to take some bipartisan legislation, to actually fix things at the border. You can't do executive orders.
Did you hear what she just said? Okay. Again, this is why I say it's like talking to a brick wall. Did you hear what she just said? Border crossings were at the lowest levels ever recorded under Donald Trump. But I still think it's going to take a bipartisan legislation. I mean, that's true. But when it comes to Biden-Harris, it's not about a border bill. It's about the fact that they repealed basically all of the Trump-era executive orders on the southern border, and then decided in election year, because they really needed to, is politically expedient, they magically brought them back. Okay? Here he goes again.
You can't do that. So how come they can't come to terms on that, and why did Donald Trump shoot down what they said was one of the most comprehensive bipartisan border bills that
If you actually read what was in there, there was like $60 billion for Ukraine. There were so many issues with that. It would allow 1.8 million illegal immigrants into our country a year. I mean, it was nonsense, honestly, Charlamagne. And I'll tell you the most infuriating part to me. You have this border wall that Donald Trump built, and then laying down on the ground where you have a wide open section are pieces of the border wall that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, because they campaigned and said, we will not build another foot of Donald Trump's border wall, it's laying on the ground. And there are people who come right through there. They could stand it up right now if they wanted to, but they won't do it. That is very frustrating, I think, to see.
There's your answer, right? Why can't we fix the border? Okay, legislation, yeah, do it. I mean, passing laws, it feels like everything we want to do, we got to pass laws, pass this law. But that it's that simple, right? You wonder why the border has suddenly become such a disaster. It's stuff like that. The border wall that Trump was trying to build is literally just sitting on the ground, not finished. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris still uses pictures of Trump's border wall in her own campaign ads, which is hilarious, but a discussion for another day, frankly.
See, right now that we paid for that, it's right there ready to go. And if they're not leaving it on the ground, then they're selling it for pennies on the dollar of America.
You keep saying he had a lot of celebrity friends and they turned on him.
He sure did.
How does he feel about that? Because, in the 90s, the early 2000s, everybody was hanging with Donald Trump. They were mentioning him in songs and going to his parties and all these events, but they've all have turned. How does he feel about that? Do you know?
I don't think he cares at all. I think he knows what he's doing is so important right now. And things are going in the wrong way in a lot of different aspects. And I think one of the scariest things to him right now is nuclear war. He talks about it all the time, that it is a real possibility right now. You have Russia, you have Iran, you have a lot of bad actors out there who are chomping at the bit. They saw the way we exited from Afghanistan. They see the weakness right now in this White House. And, you want a strong president because you want peace through strength. And that's what we had. He was the only president in 82 years not to have a new war under his leadership.
Now that back. What you just said just now about the nuclear war is something I agree with. I feel like there is too much casual conversation about nuclear war from a lot of different world leaders, and I don't think we're discussing it enough.
Yeah, but
wow. Charlamagne about to put on the MAGA hat? Well, as you can guess, no. Because once again, you will see it reverts back to the talking points.
Did you see what he did January 6th?
What did he do?
So we're having a conversation about nuclear war. By the way, the reason I keep cutting this and interrupting it is because his network is terrible about copyright rules. They just flag everything. So we got to constantly break it up. But she says that Trump can't be trusted with the nuclear codes and on foreign policy, despite his very good record on this. Why? Because of January 6th. Yeah, not making that up.
He got a little bit upset.
What did he do on January 6th?
He got a little bit upset and used his words.
What words did he say, though?
The words that you said earlier.
Peacefully and patriotically make your voices
And
heard.
Then what happened after that?
So how were his words actually contributing to that?
Because I think that for me, him being able to just push a button, hypothetically speaking, it's a little bit scary because we've seen he gets a little bit erratic when he wants to.
Well, nothing happened for 4 years when he was in the White House. And in fact...
Exactly, right? Exactly. It would be one thing to do this fear-mongering back in 2016, which they did, by the way, but When Trump did not have a political track record to really stand on. But there you go right there. There it is. Whatever. Like I said, that's why it's like, again, props to Lara Trump for doing this because, hey, you're going into enemy territory. It's the lion's den, good for her. But it's just so frustrating, honestly. It really is. And honestly, at this point, I don't know if it's entirely necessary, right? Policy debates are important. Substantive debates obviously matter. But we are what? 2.5 weeks away from the election. It's about, the argument has been settled. Now it's all just going to come down to turnout. The undecided voters don't really exist at this point, and the few left, frankly, are not large enough at this point to really be reliable or to really make that big of a difference. It's all going to come down to turnout, right? Those who have decided and made their choice for Trump, you got to go out and vote, Because at this point, who else is there to reach 8-9 years into this experiment? People like Charlamagne. I don't know, maybe in the second Trump term, hey, they'll say, oh, that wasn't so bad. But for now, okay, it's all about winning the election. And that's going to be done by just turning out the Trump base in the maximum numbers possible. And I know that's what people like Scott Pressler and Elon Musk and a lot of others in Pennsylvania are working on. And that's very good. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. And until next time, God bless and peace.